Silver, gold, and platinum investors, you know nobody ever warned you of a crash or a crisis. They didn't warn you before the great financial crisis. They didn't warn you before the tech bubble burst, and they're not going to warn you this time. So we're going to pull our heads out of the sand and look at some big major stories that will impact the price of silver, will impact the price of your gold, yes, and your platinum. We got a ton to cover. Fox News came out with some stunning statistics about the economy, about Bidenomics. We like to call it Bidenom tricks. We coined that phrase here in the basement, and we're going to want credit for that. It's not Bidenomics, it's Bidenom tricks, and we're going to explain that in detail. But we need to talk about the big upcoming BRICS meeting this week as well. We got some new news regarding that and what we might have to expect. And remember, BRICS is good. BRICS is very good. The BRICS is awesome, right? For your silver, for your gold, for your platinum. What's going on in the world? We're going to cover that as well. JP Morgan Chase, our favorite big investment bank. What did they say that also will impact the price of silver and gold? Guys, we got to cover it all. Are we in the eye of the hurricane right now? When it comes to the economy, when it comes to the overall monetary system, ask yourself, does it feel like to you that you're in the eye of the hurricane? It does to me. It seems like everything is relatively calm, right? We had a little storm that came through, or a big storm. Remember that back in early April, late March? And now we're kind of in the eye where things seem good, right? But if you've ever been through a hurricane, you know one thing. Have you ever been through a hurricane? Well, if you haven't, I'm going to tell you. When the eye passes over, everything gets calm. It seems like everything is okay. But the second half of the storm is on its way. And the second half, like Coin Shop Chris likes to say, of a hurricane is always stronger than the first half. And we've got people warning us everywhere, right? That what we have coming down the tracks, barreling at us, is not pleasant. So we need to be prepared. Let's touch on BRICS first. Guys, it's here. BRICS Week, the big meeting in Johannesburg, South Africa. We got to get a couple things under our belts, right? It's in South Africa. It starts on the 22nd. All of the major world leaders that are involved with BRICS are going to be there. Vladimir Putin will not be at the BRICS summit because there's an arrest warrant out for him. And because of international treaties, the South Africans would be required to arrest him if he showed up. So he's not going. But just this week, we got big news on somebody who is going in person. And let's just think about this. What does it mean when President Xi of China, the second largest economy in the world, announced that he's going to attend the BRICS summit in person? What does that tell us? That tells me that they're taking this super seriously. Let me read this to you. And we've got even more interesting information about the BRICS, but this comes from ABC News. Okay, so you know that the Western media is not necessarily, let's say, painting the BRICS summit, the BRICS situation in the brightest light, right? The best light. It's not necessarily a good thing for the Western countries. So when ABC News says this, Chinese President Xi Jinping will attend next week's summit of the BRICS nations in Johannesburg. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that properly. To be followed by a state visit to South Africa, the Foreign Ministry said Friday. Foreign Ministry spokesman said also in a statement that during his August 21st to 24th visit to South Africa, Xi will co-chair the China-Africa Leaders Dialogue. China-Africa Leaders Dialogue with his South African counterpart, Cyril Ramaphosa. China is huge. Africa is huge. We are gold and silver investors. Do you know between China and Africa how much of the world's precious metals are produced, how much of the world's precious metals are held. We're not even talking about India, right? The I in BRICS, China and Africa. This is big stuff going on right now, and it's going to have a major impact. Maybe not on Wednesday of this coming week, but on a Wednesday 6 months from now, 3 months from now, 18 months from now, this is going to have major impacts on the price of silver, gold, and platinum. Okay? Absolutely. China is a core member of the BRICS. And just in case you don't know, but do you know who the BRICS are? Russia, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Woo boy, it's Saturday morning. They're linking their interests. They want to move away from the U.S. dollar. That will put further pressure on the U.S. dollar, right? That's already in a very precarious situation. As the dollar goes down in value, the price of silver, gold, and platinum will go up. Let me read this. This is the part that, Brazil's president, Luiz Inácio Lula, is like pushing so hard for de-dollarization. That is an absolute fact right now. 100 of you have joined early on a Saturday. Thank you for being here. Please give this a thumbs up. That helps get more people into the live stream. It helps me feel good, and it helps more people learn about the benefits of precious metals. More people, the merrier. That means, hey, a higher price for us, right? A higher value of our precious metals. Okay, this is the interesting. This is from ABC News, so we got to consider the source. This is Western media, says this. Around 20 countries have formally applied to join. Brazilian Foreign Affairs Minister Mauro Vieira said following comments by Lula, who since taking office has repeatedly bucked the existing Western-dominated international structure. Among the hopefuls, this is just a partial list of companies that are hopeful to join the BRICS. Argentina. Guys, Argentina, we don't think much about it. I've been there. It's a massive, huge, developed economy. Argentina. United Arab Emirates? Don't they produce like this critical element that we all need to survive, for energy, for everything? Oil is everything. The United Arab, Saudi Arabia, that's the bomb, okay? If Saudi Arabia officially joins the BRICS, that's a bigger deal than a GBC, a gold-backed currency. That'll come, right? That may come Wednesday. That may come on a Wednesday. A year from now, 2 years from now, 2 months from now, the GBC, gold-backed currency, will come. But it's a bigger deal, guys. Don't let them fool you that Saudi Arabia is moving away from the petrodollar. That is a huge, huge deal. I could go on for the next hour explaining to you why. Do some research on your own. There's plenty of info out there. That alone, if Saudi Arabia joins the BRICS and we see the end or the unwinding of the petrodollar, is not good news for the United States. It's not good news for the U.S. dollar. It would mean you would be very happy. Yes, you would. Yes, you would be very happy that you stacked up some silver, you stacked up some gold, that you stacked up some platinum. Trust me on that one, okay? Indonesia. Oh, they're just a small little country. Yeah. Iran and Venezuela. Iran's huge as well. I mean, guys, so when we hear this going on, the BRICS meeting, what's more important is the big picture behind what's going on and how it relates to your silver investment, your gold investment, your precious metals mining stocks investments, okay? And from that big picture perspective, we know that there's growing momentum within these BRICS countries. Look, I live in the United States. I'm not rooting for this. It's bad news. But we need to be realistic about what is going on in the world, and it is changing drastically. And the little bits of news that we're going to get from the mainstream media in the United States most likely is not going to be a real accurate reflection of how serious and how big this actually is. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be dead wrong, right? And look, really, from the perspective that I live in the United States, hopefully I am. Hopefully our leaders are going to make some good decisions as we move into the future. But we can't deny what is going on right now, right below our very feet, and it's big, major news regarding the BRICS. So we know their momentum's growing. We know their economies are growing. We know their middle class is growing. We know that their level of importance that they're putting on precious metals, silver, gold, and platinum is growing. What does that tell us? What are the crumbs, right? Andy Schectman, I heard him say that. I loved it. I think it's the best analogy ever. They drop little crumbs for us to pick up and analyze. And when we look at the crumbs, what are they telling us? I think they're telling us, they're telling you, they're telling me, basement dwellers here in the basement, that the world is changing and that the world is moving toward more real backed assets for value. Things like silver, gold, things like oil, things like land. There's others as well, but we're focused on silver and gold because we love that. And hey, if you want to get yourself some silver or gold, I want to say thank you. This is not possible without help from sponsors. And Pimbex, right there, Pimbex, is sponsoring Ron's Basement. They help me be able to make these videos for you. They're an online bullion retailer. You know, I've used them in the past. I've checked them out. I'm very impressed with my experience and the company. If you are looking to get yourself some silver, gold, or platinum, go check out Pimbex, Pimbex. And by the way, that bear's got something in that box that he wants me to give away to you that he got from Pimbex. There'll be more info about that in the coming days. Now, let's move on. JP Morgan. What is JP Morgan telling us about the U.S. economy? Right? Just a few months ago, they had a report out that said Americans still have plenty of money. They haven't spent through all their savings they built up during the pandemic, right? Everybody saved money and, well, everybody got free money from the government and everything was dandy. But has that now changed? What is this? What does this tell you? Let me read this brief. This is just brief, but I want you to think about what this means. Here's the headline. From Zero Hedge, it's all gone. It's all gone. All excess savings have now been exhausted. JP Morgan calculates the continued strength of the U.S. consumer, right? The continued strength of the U.S. consumer amidst the worst inflationary backdrop in 4 decades. 4 decades? Not to mention a recession in Europe and what is emerging as a full-blown depression in China has surprised many. A full-blown depression in China. And then they go on to say, everybody kept saying, but the U.S. consumer is fine. A full-blown depression in China. A recession in Europe is what that says. I'm just reading you what it says. But now... And there was all this focus on how strong the U.S. economy is, how resilient the U.S. consumer. That's you. Are you resilient? Don't you feel strong? Do you feel strong? Like you're a strong consumer when you go to the grocery store and you see prices that have skyrocketed? When you go to the gas station and you see prices that have skyrocketed? You feel strong. Well, now, what does it mean when JP Morgan says, we've got a little change of data? Things have changed, America, and it appears that you've blown your rat hole money. My dad used to call it that, rat hole money. Little money you put on the side. Americans put a lot of money aside during the health crisis of 2020, but all that's gone now. Oh, interesting, And don't forget, not only is all that money gone, but, the American people, they've racked up a record amount of credit card debt. Oh, interesting. Oh, and the American people, they've got big balances on their home mortgages, but there's even more. They've got higher balances now on their home equity lines of credit. Isn't that interesting? But the American consumer is strong. Well, as long as they got some new source of free money or borrowed money they can give them. Let me tell you something, okay? Let me tell you something right now. That's something else my daddy used to tell me. Debt is bad. Debt is bad. I have no debt, zero. No mortgage, no credit card, no cars, nothing. That makes me wealthy, right? Because then what I do have, I own. You could be a guy making $400,000 a year. And if you got a mortgage and you got a car debt and you got student loan debt and you got credit card debt and you got debt at the local massage parlor, I don't know. I don't even know why I said that. Whatever. You got debt, right? I'm richer than him. Okay? Debt is bad. You want to stay out of debt, not out of bed. It's good to get some good sleep at night, nonetheless, right? I didn't make this up. Gold is the currency of royalty, of kings. Silver is the currency of gentlemen. Debt is the currency of slaves, okay? If you're in debt, please do yourself a favor. Get yourself out of debt, especially start with credit card debt. That is fundamentally true. I have a degree in accounting. I worked for one of the big four accounting firms, okay? I understand money. All right, I don't want to sit down here and brag in any way, shape, or form, but I'm telling you, get yourself out of debt. If you're out of debt, good for you, okay? But it's a very good idea to get out of debt. So that's what the U.S. economy is barreling towards. Hey, we got 200 people. Thank you guys for being here. Please give it a thumbs up. Press the thumbs up. It's free. It helps on many levels, and I really appreciate it. But what's barreling towards us is a tsunami of debt. Okay, mortgage debt, car debt, student loan debt. All this is happening as the U.S. economy is just starting to feel the effects of what the Federal Reserve had done during the last 18 months, raising interest rates. And what's going to happen to silver? And what's going to happen to gold when everything? I mean, I don't see how it can't happen. Do you agree or do you disagree that as we move into this next 6 months, there's a confluence of constrictive factors that are going to send the U.S. economy into a recession? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe even a depression. The world, now they're saying China. If you think that we're not linked with China's economy, I think you're crazy. You know, that if China really has hard times, this article, I got to read this again. And what is emerging as a full-blown depression in China. And why is all this happening the week before the big BRICS meeting? Isn't that a good... Man, we got so much more to cover. I appreciate you guys being here, okay? Hey, Sharon Johnson, thank you. Good to see you. Give me 1 second, guys. I got to take a sip of coffee. I like the corn pop. Oh, you want the corn pop story? You know, it's funny. I thought of that last night, Sharon. I haven't said the corn pop story in a while. Guys, up next, after the short coffee break, which will take about 5 seconds, I'll tell the corn pop story for you. The corn is popping. That's a great segue. Thank you, Sharon, into what I want to talk about next. And that is, guys, the corn is popping, okay? And this is what nobody talks about. Very few, the smart people. And you're part of the smart crowd talks about this. We got big risk factor right now with the 10-year bond rate. There's all different bonds, 30-year bonds, 2-year bonds, whatever, bonds. But the 10-year U.S. Treasury bond is the bellwether, right? The best example. It's at 4.25%. That is a big deal because think about it this way. Rising interest rates are like hot oil in a pot. Hot oil. And the higher the rate goes, the hotter the oil gets, the more the flame gets turned up. And you pour some corn in there. Those are all the banks. And we had 3 of the kernels pop back in March and April, right? And then the heat went down. The rate went from like 4.3, it was only got to 4.15, 4.16% back then. The heat got turned down, okay? So down the 10-year bond yield went to like 3.3%. Now the heat's back up and it's hotter than where it was where we had the banking crisis back in March and April, which were three of the four largest banks in the history of the United States. Combined, those three banks back in March and April were bigger than all the banks that went bust during the great financial crisis. And now we got the heat turned up even more. If you've ever made popcorn on a stovetop, you know a couple kernels pop first, and then all of a sudden they all go pop, 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 pop. And that's, again, maybe they've got some new magic, miracle, whatever you want to call it, to stop that from happening. But mathematically, we know the rate now is much higher. I saw a headline just the other day, I believe it's from Goldman Sachs, said this, that in the last 6 weeks, as the rate has gone up, like from where it was 3.3% on the 10-year to 4.3% it got to this week, that the regional banks alone during that period, that the value of their assets went down by 10%. That's big, guys. Remember, your bank's not going to tell you if they're in trouble. When you walk, the Fed, Jerome Powell is not going to come out and say, hey, I just want to warn everybody, we're seeing some bad things go on, and we think that in 3 or 4 weeks, we might have another little financial problem. Janet Yellen, when she's not eating her favorite mushroom dish, is not going to come to you and say, guys, I think we got trouble, right? Your bank, when you walk into your bank, they're not going to have a placard up saying, just so you're forewarned, the value of our assets went down by 10% over the last 6 weeks. It's not going to happen. You got to be prepared. You got to be thinking ahead. And remember what happens when we have these crises. This is where it gets exciting for people that invest in the precious metals, gold investors, silver investors, platinum investors. This is where it gets exciting. Because think back to the last two crisis that we had. We don't want crisis. We're not hoping for crisis, but we're realist, and there will be more crisis. That's just the way the world works. And when things get delicate and sensitive, like the U.S. economy and monetary, guys, it's so delicate, so sensitive, things happen much more quickly, okay? Remember what happened back in March, April, emergency. Gosh, I can't. Think about this. On Wednesday of that week, Jerome Powell was in front of Congress telling them everything was hunky-dory on Wednesday. On Saturday, we had a banking crisis. We had banks. They were having emergency meetings over the weekend between the Treasury and the Fed. So they're not going to tell you that there's problems coming down the pike. But this is the exciting part. Again, we don't want bad things, but we're realist. During the health crisis of 2020, right? During the little banking crisis we've talked about ad nauseum, just 5 months ago? What happened to silver? Remember, I want you to think back, right? If you're a silver, we'll just talk about silver, but we're talking about gold and platinum as well. But silver, what happened? When those little crises hit, you couldn't get it. You go to your local coin shop, empty. Go online. Oh, we've got a 3-week delay before we can ship you any silver or gold. So is now the time? Look, I'm not giving financial advice, but is now the time when premiums are down, when inventory is available, when nobody else, that's one of the biggest problems silver investors have, okay? Absolutely. People buy when the price is skyrocketing. People get all excited and they want to, and then the premiums are up, the price is up, everything else. Rick Rule says, silver investors, they're the opposite of what if you went to the grocery store and you like tuna fish, canned tuna fish, the expensive stuff like Susie likes. Susie sends me to the store to get tuna fish, the 6 cans, and writes the specific name and type. And I'm like, I never realized there were like so many types of tuna fish available. And I asked this lady, I'm like, this is albacore, white, and oil with, I don't know, it was crazy. And I was like, and I'm looking, and I said, you know what? I bet if I look for the most expensive can, that'll be it. And sure enough, it was. Anyway, silver. This is about you buying silver. If you go to the grocery store and tuna fish is on sale, 25% off, you'll probably buy a couple extra cans of tuna fish. When silver goes on, American Silver Eagles, right? They were selling for $40, $42 each not too long ago. Now they're selling for, and I haven't looked, but I'm pretty sure like $29. They're 25% off. Why aren't people buying them? They're not. It doesn't make sense. That's why it's so important to dollar cost average when you're buying silver, gold, or platinum, right? You then force yourself, like every month, every quarter, if that's what you want to do. I'm not giving financial advice. The other option is you got to go against your emotions, and that's much more difficult for most of us to do, okay? Oh, I got to ring the bell. I know Coin Shop Chris is yelling at me. Thank you for all the thumbs up. Guys, 240 people on a flash live stream to talk about silver and gold. You're a basement dweller. We're in this together. You belong here. You've given us 100 thumbs up. You're going to get yourself 10 rings of the bell. Me and these darn bells. The last day I'm doing it. Never doing it again. Remember, when we get to 300 thumbs up, I ring the bell with my nose. Well, no, I don't. I don't do that anymore. Anyway, buy silver and gold when it's on sale. It's hard to do. Dollar cost averaging is the best way to force yourself to do that. If you want to get fancy, if you want to be fancy, the other thing you can do is buy when it's down, but that's very difficult because for some reason, all of us, when it's down, aren't interested, right? So you got to go like opposite of what your emotions are. And that's hard to do. And that's why you got to be prepared mentally and monetarily for the potential that we get into a big crisis, because it would, if we had big crisis, and who knows what happens to the fiat paper, unicorn fart dust, whatever you want to call it, price of silver, it's going to be emotional. Okay. It's fun right now. You can sit around and say, oh, it's, I got this. But when it actually happens, you're going to have a lot of emotions, and you want to be prepared. Okay. Now this 10-year bond, let's just talk real quick. The banks at these high interest rates are losing deposits. People are pulling their money out of the banks because they can get better rates on money market accounts, on treasury bonds. That's hurting the banks. Let's talk about bank stress real quickly. Defaults, right? The economy's slowing down for one thing. People are defaulting more on their car loans, on their business loans, all that. Mortgage rates are through the roof. Highest mortgage rate. Are you thinking about buying a house or moving? Well, you might want to look at the mortgage rates, and you might want to calculate what your payment would be, because it is crazy. And hey, Kirsten, good to see you again from Denmark. Hey, thank you. Wow, that is super generous. Always appreciated, never expected. You guys believe that? All the way from Denmark, we got a super chat. That's awesome. We got people here from all over the world. Let me finish up with the banks, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about you, okay? Number one, baby, YouTube, you. All these loans, all this pressure on the banks, okay? The banks, commercial real estate. Let me educate those of you who don't know. The banks have loaned out billions, trillions of dollars on commercial real estate, office buildings, medical, whatever, Home Depot buildings, all types of commercial real estate. All right. Especially office parks, the value has crashed. All right. Now, the way those loans work, they usually have like a 2 or 3 year time period, or term is the technical word to describe it. And those hey, thank you, Tony Stilly. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. You are a basement dweller. Those loans have to be refinanced then every 2 or 3 or 5 years, whatever it is. That's all starting to roll in now, right? So you've got an office building that you've borrowed. Let's say you and I decide to go buy an office building together, and we go to the bank. This was 3 years ago. And we say, hey, look, commercial real estate's a great investment. Me and Ron from Ron's Basement, we're going to buy ourselves an office building. Okay, look, it's fully occupied. And it's worth $100 million. So you and I agree, we're going to set up a company. We're going to buy this office building. Stay with me on this, guys, because this is important. So we borrow $100 million from First National, Appleton, whatever bank. They give us $100 million bucks. We buy the building. Everything's going great. Thank you, Sean. Wow, man. Thank you, Sean. That is super generous. Thank you. We love you too. I'm glad you enjoy the videos. We got a $100 million loan. We've got our building. It's fully occupied and everything's hunky-dory. It's 2019, okay? And the loan is for 5 years. Loan is for 4 years, let's say. It's 2020. The loan's for 4 years. Now, over the last couple of years, all those businesses, half the people have left our building. And that's literally what's happened throughout the country. Nobody's renting commercial real estate office space. So now that building that we had that was 100% occupied is now half occupied. And we paid $100 million. We borrowed $100 million at 4%. And now we go get it appraised, and the appraiser says, sorry, there's been a crash in commercial real estate. Your building's only worth $63 million right now. So we go to the bank and we say, bank, we need to redo our loan comes due in 2024. We need to refinance our $100 million loan. And we want to do it for another 4 years. And the bank says, well, we got bad news. The rate is no longer 4%. Now the rate is 8%. Okay, so probably a double of our payment on that. Plus, and we look at each other and we're like, we can't afford that. The rent that we're getting isn't enough to pay that money back to the bank, right? And then the bank looks and says, oh, we really got trouble because that building, that the collateral is only worth a fraction. That's what's going on right now. Sorry, that was a long-winded description. And that same thing is going on with the banks and their bond holdings. Okay, that's what Goldman Sachs was talking about, how when interest rates go up, the value of bonds go down. It's the inverse relationship between interest rates and bond prices, right? Because a bond that only pays 2% is not worth as much in an environment where the going rate is almost 5%. And that's what these banks are sitting on. They bought that. All the banks are, I don't know, who knows, right? They can do, old Jerome, they'll do all kinds of smoke and mirrors and duct tape and chewing gum to cover it all up. But man, at the end of the day, gold and silver are the only forms of real money. You know the whole story. They're the base of everything. John Exter's pyramid, everything is built on top of gold and silver. And I heard somebody talking about this, I'm sure this makes sense to you as well. In the end, the forces of nature always win, right? Right? Eventually, Mother Nature prevails. We know that. We've been around for a while. Silver and gold are a force of nature. Let that sink in. What does that mean, right? They are the real forms of money. They have been for thousands of years. They will continue for thousands of years. Thank you guys for the super chats all over the world. It's a big deal that we're here. Now there's 250 of us on a Saturday morning. The few, the proud, the basement dwellers. That's us, right? We're not afraid. Well, we are. We're human, but we have courage. We're willing to dig a little deeper, talk about this. I'm first to admit, maybe I'm wrong. I'm just trying to take what's going on out there, synthesize it, and present it to you, and maybe it gives you a little bit of a different perspective, and you give me back your perspective, and that's how we all learn. It's a big deal you're here. Thumbs ups help, okay? I'm not going to ask again. And I'm never going to ring the bell with my nose for as long as I live. All right. Maybe I did lie one time during this live stream. Bidenomics. Joe Biden's economic miracle. They are touting it everywhere, guys. President Joe Biden has delivered the United States into the economic wonderland and economic heaven. Everybody's doing great, right? Everybody's doing so awesome. He's out there. He goes on factory tours and you know what he does? Here's what he does. He said, we're talking about Bidenomics. And then he whispers into the microphone. He says, and it's working. And it's working. Okay. Well, we got news for you, Joe. Okay. We got a little news for you, Joe. If you can hear this, it's not working. Let's just talk about 4 data points. exhausted yesterday, eating lunch, and I turned on the news, and they're talking about Bidenomics, and I heard Joe say, "It's working." What's working, Joe? Tell us, please. Explain. And then if this was Fox News, and I don't watch much I watch about 5 minutes of mainstream news a week, okay? But this was so good, I snapped a picture of it for you. Bear with me here. You got to hear this, because this is shocking. This is absolutely shocking. And when this comes home to roost, the price of silver, the price of gold are going to, I'm telling you, they're going to skyrocket. That's just my opinion, not financial advice. But I took a picture of this because it's working, right? There we go. Okay, that's my TV. That's as fancy as I get. Here, look at this. Look at that for a second. That's Bidenomics. I know, you're really disappointed. You don't get to look at my face. Trust me, I'm still here. All right. The headline, the impact of Bidenomics. The impact of Bidenomics. Boy, the screen just changed. I don't know if the screen changed for you guys as well. I look brighter. I look brighter. That doesn't mean I am brighter. Okay, Joe, if it's working, explain this to us. This is in the thumbnail of this video. Consumer prices. Since we've been under Bidenomics, consumer prices are up 15.9%. Oh, yeah. Do you know that? Do you feel that when you go to the grocery store, when you go to Walmart to buy some new product, a new toaster, when you need to replace a part on your car? Okay, well, Joe, consumer prices are up 15.9%. What about gas prices? This shocked me. This was shocking. Gasoline prices up 61.9%. But it's working, right? It's working. Yeah, it's working to drain money out of your wallet and my wallet. It's working. It's been going great. Home prices up 11.3%. But we know this. We know that Americans, for the first time in the history of the country, did you hear this? The first time in the history of the country, Americans are spending more than 30% of their income just on shelter, whether it's an apartment or a house payment, whatever it might be. The first time in the history, but it's working. Okay, Joe. Credit card debt under Bidenomics. I can't even read this. It makes me sick. 33.9% higher. Okay, that is sad. That means, don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses or the Smiths or the Ron's Basements or anybody. Don't put yourself in credit card debt to survive. Real wages down 2.6%. Okay, so let's talk about this, because again, guys, when this all comes to fruition, when it all comes together, it's going to be a rough go for the economy. We want to be prepared, okay? Mentally, monetarily, we're the M&Ms. Don't forget, mentally and monetarily prepared for what could happen, right? We want to be there for each other, and we're going to navigate the choppy waters, all that good stuff, but we want to be prepared, because Bidenomics, if that's all they can do, let's not forget, and this is where I get mad, that's all he can squeeze. That's not good. And then they're going to tell you, but the economy grew at 2.4% because it's working, right, Joe? Yeah, the economy grew at 2.4%, but we have a $1.4 trillion deficit. Okay, we've got a $34 trillion national debt. That's like $250,000 per worker in the United States. I may have that wrong. Maybe it's per citizen. I think it's $250,000 per worker and like $100,000 per person divided amongst everybody. But if you work in this country, hey, congratulations. And you've got credit card debt, housing debt, student loan debt. Oh, and by the way, you also owe $250,000 thanks to the wise decision of your politicians that you elected, and I elected, I guess, in Washington. Oh, great. Yeah, the future looks so bright. No wonder the millennials are like, nah. I don't know, guys. It's crazy. We got the third largest trucking company in the country claiming bankruptcy. 100-year-old. We've got 10% drop in volume in trucking rates. We've got 10% drop in real wages, according to another statistic. That's when you factor in inflation against what wage increases that people have gotten. We're dry. It's not a. It makes me mad. And I'll say this, right? That's Bidenomics. And this is not a political show, not at all. But I would say this. I'm neither personally. So it really is not a political show. But I just want to see I'm going to say what I see as the truth. And the Democrats are supposed to be for the working class, for the average people. The middle class is getting decimated, But then the communist China, their middle class is growing. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. But the middle class in America is getting decimated. Don't forget, the middle class in India is growing, right? Don't forget, you like silver and gold, platinum? Well, you ain't seen nothing till you go to India. They love precious metals, and they've got like the fastest growing economy, the fastest growing middle class. Heck, last year, do you remember? If you don't know this, you're going to be shocked. So make sure you're sitting down. If you don't know how much silver India bought last year, sit down for a second. India imported over 300 million ounces of silver last year. India, okay? That's like over 30% of the world's production of silver. That's silver. Oh, but man, I don't know. Do you know, do the Indian people like gold? The people of India with that rapidly expanding middle class, and they're sharp people. I know a lot of Indian people here in the United States. They're smart, right? Do they like gold? I don't know about platinum, Neil. I'm sorry. And thank you, Neil, for being here. Thank you, Coin Shop Chris. I need to get to the comments. I apologize, guys. But let me wrap up on this point about India. We know they love silver. Do you know Indian households have 25,000 just their households, 25,000 metric tons of gold? Think about it. You know how much gold is supposedly in Fort Knox? Less than a third of that. Wow. Thank you guys for the super chats. This is awesome. 300 people on a Saturday morning, a flash live stream because we want to talk about silver and gold. Remember, nobody warned you about a crash. Now, I'm not going to be a fear monger, but we're going to be realist. If something bad is on the horizon, they aren't going to tell us about it beforehand. Just take a look back. Think of the other big things that have happened over the years. Be prepared. Be prepared. Annie Oakley, thank you for being here. Neil from Neil Hans Dynasty, thank you to the moderators. Coin Shop, Chris and I did a blockbuster interview last night. It's going to come out later today. Make sure you watch it. I think it's going to be like 30 minutes long, and we covered everything. And that Coin Shop Chris has some brilliant insights. We all love Coin Shop Chris. I tell you what, there's a significance to number 5 with Coin Shop Chris, but I said I would never talk about it again. So if you love Coin Shop Chris, type 5, please. He helps so much. So does Neil. So does Annie. Guys, we love him. Okay. Question. How many? I said I wasn't going to talk about that, Chris. Okay. Will I ring the cowbell? Yes, I will ring the cowbell, Sharon Johnson. I will ring it when we get to 200 thumbs up. So guys, please give this a thumbs up. That really helps. That helps get the word out, and it helps me feel good, and it feels good to you to do something nice. It'd be nice if you hit the thumbs up. And then Sharon would be rewarded. Not rewarded. Sharon said, will I ring the cowbell? Look at all those 5s for Coin Shop Chris. He is a critical component to the basement. I watched something the other day. Now, here's your chance. I'm going to talk about something, but while I'm talking, I need you to do something. Think about if there's any question you have, any subject you want me to cover, because in about 3 minutes, it's your chance. Type 3 question marks and then the subject or the question that you have, and I'll be happy to address it, okay? There's a video out there. Is it Mike Mahoney? It's new. You got to watch it. It's only like 5 minutes long, but he talks about the return on silver and gold in the 70s. And I'm telling you guys, it's mind blowing. He compares real estate, bonds, stock market, silver, and gold, and what their returns are during the 70s. And we are in a very similar, nothing's exactly the same. History rhymes. It doesn't always exactly repeat, but we're in a very similar situation right now. Hold on one second. We haven't talked about the S word, stagflation, for a long time. Are we in a stagflationary environment, a stagnant economy with inflation? That's what happened during the 70s. In this video, you can see that real estate, bonds, the stock market, they called it part of the 70s the silent crash in the stock market because the value of the dollar went down and the stock market remained about equal. I think it was down like the real return on the stock market was like negative, I don't know, 50%, something huge. But gold and silver went up multiples, 25, it's crazy how much they went up. You got to watch it. I'll get a link for the future videos. It's super interesting. Ron, here, JV asks, Ron, if gold hits $2,500, would you curse for once? I might once curse, but I don't usually curse in Ron's basement. But yes, thank you for the question, JV. I might just curse. I do a lot of cursing otherwise. So, D Glass, if Trump goes to jail, do you see precious metals prices skyrocketing, or will the whole system collapse? I don't know. I haven't given that much thought. I think at minimum what we need to consider is just the overall environment of political chaos in this country. We have political chaos and we have weaponization, some people say, of the Justice Department. And so within this big context that the country already is in a horrible financial situation. Hey, thank you, Thomas Toops. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate that, Thomas. The country's in a horrible financial situation. But then on top of it, it's like we've got like a political system where it's as contentious as it's ever been. I would say close to sane. I got to tell this story. Susie and I, before we had kids, this is a quick story. We went on a day trip to Springfield, Illinois. That's where Abraham Lincoln was born, and they have an Abraham Lincoln Museum there, which is really awesome. And I'm not much of a museum guy, but it was pretty cool. And in this room at this Abraham Lincoln Museum, they had all these newspaper headlines from before the Civil War. And this was like 15 years ago we were there. And I'm reading these newspaper headlines from before, and I'm like, these people were vicious. I'm like, I can't imagine that what the environment must have been like back then, because it was 15 years ago, it was way different here. Now, they don't have anything on us. I mean, it really is eye-opening. Think about that. Okay? I mean, we are in a very contentious environment. So yes, if we get some crazy political things, and even including past presidents being put in jail, who knows? Yeah, silver and gold could skyrocket, no doubt about it. Okay, Flannel Capital has a question. Hey, Ron. Hey, Flannel Capital. Glad you're here. It's working. Can you discuss your thoughts on the gold to silver ratio, 85-1, and the market cap of gold, 13 trillion, and silver, 1.3 trillion, which is 10-1. I can tackle the silver to gold ratio and tell you that is historically high. Okay, it takes 85 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. There's a great chart out there that shows every time since 2020 that the silver to gold ratio has risen to 85-1, there has been a massive rally in the silver price. Does that mean it's going to happen again or that it's imminent? No, but 85 to 1 is pushing it, baby. And it's gotten a little higher very temporarily before in the past. But anytime it's gotten up this high, subsequently, what we see is a massive rally in the price of silver. When it comes to market cap, 13 trillion to 1 point. I can't speak. I don't have anything really interesting, in my opinion, to say about the market cap of gold to silver. Let me noodle on that one, but I appreciate the question. That's a good question. The best questions, really, sometimes are the ones we don't have answers to, right? So if anybody out there has any thoughts on that market cap of gold to silver, 13 trillion market cap for gold to silver, 1.3 trillion, let us know. Oh, here, I almost forgot. Where is it? How did I miss this? Oh, gosh. We got a big point to talk about, guys. We got breaking news. Breaking news about silver, okay? The registered silver on the COMEX. You know your friends at the COMEX and the LBMA. Those are the electronic exchanges. The COMEX in the United States and the LBMA in London, England. That's where they set the price of silver. Or some people say manipulate the price of silver. Well, the level of inventory in the vaults, and the COMEX is the most closely watched. There's two types. There's registered and eligible. The one we care about is called registered inventory because that's the actual amount of silver in the vaults of the COMEX that can be used to satisfy all these electronic hundreds, all these contracts that are written, right? For each 1 ounce, there's, who knows, there's all different numbers people throw out there, but there's many, 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 many more multiples contracts written on just this little bit of silver. And that amount of silver is shrinking and shrinking. As a matter of fact, this past week, it got below 28 million ounces. Now, what's significant about that? That is near the all-time low post the silver squeeze. We had that silver squeeze. We are that is pushing an all-time low range. But what's even more interesting is one of the main vaults that's used by the COMEX is Brinks. You've heard of Brinks, right? Maybe, I'm sure a Brinks truck shows up at your house once a month when you do your dollar cost averaging. Oh, that's probably the best joke of the whole live stream. Anyway, Brinks, critical component vault for the COMEX. Their level of silver inventory is at an all-time low. What does that tell us? What does that tell us, right? I don't know, guys. When I think about silver and the demand profile going forward, all these things that are going to affect the silver price, silver demand as we move forward, and when you think about the tiny bit of silver that's available to satisfy all these contracts, to me, let's just say, Lily says, hi, Uncle Dave. Okay. Welcho Services. Lily says, hi, Uncle Dave. Okay. It's exciting what's going on out there in the silver market. No doubt about it. Somebody had a great question about American silver Eagles. Chris Kell asks, buy Eagles now or still too high? I would say I'm even been tempted to buy some American silver Eagles. Okay. They were over 40. They were like $42, $43 each. And now I'm hearing prices like $28 I saw the other day. I calculated. Go check out what Pimbex has. They had tubes. This was a couple days ago, so I'm not quoting prices and I'm not giving financial advice, but they had tubes of American Silver Eagles, if I remember correctly, for $566. And Pimbex does free shipping on orders over $299. So anyway, I didn't want to plug my sponsor, but it just worked that way. So thank you for listening. Nonetheless, yeah, I mean, if you're a person, and I'm tempted, okay, I'm getting that feeling, right? American Silver Eagles, relative to where they were 4 months ago, 2 months ago, are a good, and they are beautiful coins. I love them. There's no doubt about it. It's just they were too expensive, and the premiums are way down and the price is down. So great question, Chris. Thank you. All right, I'm looking for more questions. Are we going to get, oh, guys, we need 7 more. We got 300 people. Sorry, I keep coughing this morning. Can we get the 200 thumbs up? All you got to do is press that little thing that looks like that. Oh, no, look, maybe it looks like that. Whatever it looks like, that or that. Press it. Because Sharon wants me to ring the bell, and I want to ring the bell. For me and for Sharon and for you, we love talking about. Pembex was still cheaper yesterday. Thank you, Sharon. Even cheaper. Wow. Cowbell time. Oh, yes, it is. Thank you, Snakebite. Good to see you. Let's do a ring. I ring this bell. This was personally delivered by one of you. Joe Fowler came down here, brought it to the house. He actually sat down here at the desk. So anyway. There you go. I tried to do it surround sound for you. Thank you guys for the thumbs up. Thank you for being here. Wow, Vicki Miller paid $27.02 2 days ago for American Silver Eagles. That's awesome. Now, when you're shopping around, guys, in CoinShop, Chris and I talked about this. I'm going to give you 2 warnings, okay? If you ever see a deal wherever you're shopping around, you want to make sure you're always buying your silver and gold from a reputable company. That is so critical because there are fakes out there. So if you see some deal on some website where you can get American Silver Eagles or whatever it is, and it's below the spot price and it seems too good to be true, you know why? Because it is. There is definitely fake silver out there, so be careful. The other thing is, please be careful. There are so many scammers on the internet, on YouTube, including they attack my channel. They attack all the channels. I will never ask you to contact me by any other way besides email, ronsbasementsilver@gmail.com. Be careful. Don't click on links unless you are 100% sure what you're clicking on. Did I miss? Happy Saturday, Michael K. Thank you, my friend. Let's see what I missed here. Let's see what I missed. Did I miss? Did I miss? Oh, Ann Williams has a great question. How many double D's, we'll call them, because I said I wouldn't talk about them anymore on the channel, will it take to get CoinShop Chris on camera? That's a funny one. I think CoinShop Chris is willing to get on camera for $1 million. I'm just joking. Okay. All right, guys. Any more questions? This is your chance. This is your chance. Give me 1 second, please. D. Glass asks, what are my thoughts on rhodium? I don't know much at all about rhodium. I did read an article. I'm presuming that's one of the, what are those called? Rare earth elements. I did read an article last night about one of the other ones. In China has like a chokehold on a lot of these rare earth elements. And if rhodium's not part of that, I apologize. But nonetheless, they're saying that like now the chip makers are freaked out because China's basically, we aren't getting along real well with China. And they're kind of like saying, we're not going to provide you with this stuff anymore. So these rare earth elements, these other precious metals that are very rare and not used as extensively as, let's say, silver or platinum, it's an interesting dynamic, and I don't know so much about the supply and demand dynamics of those specific. Rockin' Ronnie has a question. Do I ever trade SLV? No, I do not. I've done some active trading in the past. Really, to be honest with you, over the last 2 years, I've been sitting on a portfolio of gold and silver mining stocks. Equinox Gold, Fortuna Silver, which is now more of a gold. And I'm going to be talking to the CEO of Fortuna on Monday, Jorge Ganoza. He's a great guy. And I'm going to ask him about silver supply. Okay. We're going to talk about the company because it's a fascinating company, what they're doing, especially now in Africa as well. But we're going to talk about silver supply. But if you have a question you want me to ask Jorge, send me an email. Again, it's in the description of this video, ronsbasementsilver@gmail.com. It's a close to $1 billion market cap company. Jorge is super respected. If you have a question for a silver and gold mining company CEO who's a super sharp guy, I'd be really happy to consider it. Please send an email. Like I said, put Jorge in the subject line or something like that to get my attention, although I do read all my emails anyway. No, I do not trade. I don't day trade and don't trade. I probably would consider maybe at some point, every once in a while, I'll buy options, buying some like call options on SLV, but I haven't done anything like that in a long time. I also own First Mining Gold, who is going to be sponsoring the channel and starting September 15th. So we'll have a Bullion company sponsor that I believe in, that I've done business with, and we'll have First Mining Gold again. And they got some exciting developments going on there as well. And that's a stock I've owned for years and years. I will only accept sponsorships. And trust me, now I've accepted like less than 1% of what's been offered to me from companies that I've either worked with, have money invested in, believe in, that I eat my own cooking, I guess is the best way to say it. Okay, hold on. Really old pennies show up in circulation. People don't pay attention to pennies, Clifton. That's what I would say, and grab them, right? Because at minimum, they're made out of copper. Flannel Capital says in the 2008 crash, when silver crashed below $9, were you buying, and was it hard to get silver back then? I did buy some during that process, and yes, it was hard to get silver. I also bought some silver on the Saturday in March of 2020 when silver dropped to like $12 an ounce. I made what for me was a rather significant purchase, and it was difficult to get. It was difficult to get delivered, and when it did get delivered, the box had been dropped. It was a big mess, and the company that I bought it from back then, which was not Pimbex, said, "Oh, well," and by that point, it took so long to get there that silver had gone from like 12 to 18. The company, they must have thought I was a dunce. They were like, "Oh, well, we'll pay for you to ship it back and we'll just give your money back." I said, "Oh, no, you won't." I've made other ill-timed purchases of silver as well. I'm more of a dollar cost averager. So, all right, guys, I got to get running. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for the super chats. You are the most important part of Ron's Basement, and I'm going to look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.